If you want to avoid the rest of the world and all of the bad things that are happening, you can shut yourself off, and I think Singapore is a good place to do that.
Meet Chris Snell, a Brit who used to live in Japan and Hong Kong, but has been residing in Singapore for the last 16 years, working as a top manager in multinational company. Chris shared how the lifestyle in Hong Kong differs from that in Singapore, why it's so easy to make friends with Singaporeans, and why supermarkets in England are much better than those in Singapore. I'm Max Chernov, let's go!
You remember your impressions when you moved from Hong Kong to Singapore? The lifestyle became different or for you, or kind of similar to your life in Hong Kong?
Similar to start with. I mean, we came here with the impression, the understanding that 3 years in Hong Kong was quite enough. Everything is to excesses in Hong Kong. Here was more of a move to maybe grow up a little bit, settle down, have children. So yeah, Singapore is a better place, I think, for families. It's less enclosed, less busy, less noisy, more green space.
More English speaking, probably.
More English speaking, which helps with my inability to speak any other languages.
What's the best thing for you about living in Singapore?
Singapore is easy. It's an easy place to live. It's kind of, if you want to avoid the rest of the world and all of the bad things that are happening, you can shut yourself off to it and just get on with the life. Well, you've got young children, you want to kind of limit their exposure to how bad humans can be, and I think Singapore is a good place to do that because you're out of the line of fire. It's an easy place to live. It's just easy to get around. It's a nice place to live. Everyone deliberately avoids contentious topics and just gets along with each other, which on the flip side can be not necessarily a good thing because you are, I guess, hiding away from certain topics you should be more familiar with. But I guess, for my children growing up, it's a good thing, without them having to get too deep into the human psychology or the politics of the world that even I don't really understand sometimes. Yeah, it's just a nice place to live, other than when it's raining and but then I just moan about the heat because I'm English. We have to moan about the weather all the time.
That's the rule.
It's second nature, yeah. Do it without even realizing it.
Speaking about children, so my older daughter is 7, and I agree with you about it's kind of, she's protected here and she's safe here. But I also kind of feel I need to show her the different way, how people live with $5 a day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of also important because otherwise she would only know that, the condo life is the normal life, but it's not normal life.
Yeah. No, it's very important. I deliberately expose my children to that because one thing I've always disliked is entitled children or spoilt children. I mean, my children are a little bit spoilt. I've tried my hardest to not spoil them, but I still expose them to. Coincidentally, we're going to do Willing Hearts as a family this Sunday. Because I want them to see, they need to give back to the community as well. They need to see the other side of Singapore comfortably to them because they know no better, right? They're able to get by, whereas, as an expat, you can splurge sometimes and waste money away rather than focusing it somewhere sensible. But yeah, we've done a few different charity things as a family just to make sure that my girls do. I expose them to poverty deliberately sometimes because they need to see sometimes the world isn't such a great place and there's people, 1/3 of the world or whatever that awful statistic is, haven't got access to fresh water and, the things we take for granted, they need to understand not everyone has the luxury of.
Do you miss ability to travel by car or by train in Singapore?
I do a little bit. I mean, during the pandemic, Singapore felt like it was shrinking because you couldn't really go anywhere. But I mean, Singapore is a great place as a hub to visit anywhere in Asia. I always describe it as the place that's 4 hours away from all of the UK honeymoon destinations. You've got Bali, you've got the Maldives, you've got everywhere you ever want to go, and it's just a weekend away. It's doable. So.
Yeah, no, that's true, that's true. Your kids, they were born in Singapore.
Yes.
So for them, you think they have some identity crisis? Are they British, are they Singaporeans?
It's weird because my youngest daughter's got an American accent and I can't figure out where she got it from. The oldest one wants to talk like Harry Styles. She's watched One Direction for the last 1 year non-stop.
Yeah.
So she wants to talk like someone from the north of England. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of an identity crisis going on.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where they're from. Yeah. They're definitely not Singaporean. They haven't learned Singlish.
How's your social circle look like? Your friends, they're from where in Singapore?
My social circle here, I guess there's a large Irish community. A lot of Western friends that I've kind of met along the way.
Do you have any Singaporean friends?
Yeah, plenty of Singaporean friends. You kind of, primarily from where I live as opposed to where I work. In my circle, in my condo, I've made some good friends over the years, Singaporeans, and from kind of Siglap's got a very enclosed community, really. So you meet a lot of Singaporeans in Siglap, as well as Westerners, Angmos.
Angmos, yeah. Do you feel it easy or difficult to make friends with locals, with Singaporeans?
I think it's easy to make friends. I mean, there's always a lot of things you have in common, especially when Singaporeans find out you're not just transient. You've put a lot of time and commitment into Singapore. 16 years, people kind of accept you more as if you've been here for 6 months. I think obviously Singaporeans have seen a lot of people come and go. A lot of people come, moan about Singapore and leave. And other people come here, they enjoy the lifestyle, they contribute to the lifestyle, they contribute to culture, they give back a lot into the communities. I'm very bought into Singapore. I've done a lot of local charity work, a lot of work where I've kind of given back to the community rather than just come here and enjoyed what I can take from the lifestyle.
What do you feel when you come back to, let's say, to visit England or Ireland? What do you feel?
Do you know, visiting England and Ireland as a visitor is so much easier because you've got no roots there. I was talking about moving back to England last year, and someone asked me where I'd move to, and I suddenly realised I haven't got a place I call home in the UK because I've been gone for 19 years. It's nice going back as a tourist because you appreciate England a lot more. I know I'll appreciate it when I move back there, but I think at the same time, when you're back there as a visitor, it's just more of a holiday as opposed to living there. So I enjoy walking into the supermarkets and just seeing all the food. I could spend a day in a supermarket in the UK.
Is it?
Yeah, I love it. I literally go up and down every single aisle. I find myself in the cat food aisle. I've never even had a cat. Or in the babies aisle. I've got no babies anymore. I just love the fresh food. Having all the vegetables and the colours of the fruit and veg.
Yeah.
You don't get so much of that here. Or if you do, it costs you a fortune, which is one of the downsides of supermarket shopping here.
What's your principles about money?
I think money is the root of all evil, personally, but it's the same thing that I've chased after. I would happily, if I hadn't had children, I'd happily have gone and lived on a beach on $5 a day somewhere. I think the more responsibilities you have, the more you take money seriously. But at the same time, it's an underlying belief that you need to have that money to be able to be comfortable. Whereas it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and a bit of a vicious circle. I try and teach my children the value of money as well by, they get pocket money, they have to save for things they want rather than just me giving them everything. For me personally, it's enough just to have a comfortable lifestyle, give back, give money to charities where I can, or at least it's not just about earning money for charity or giving money to charity, it's about providing visibility for the charity as well.
Do you invest?
I do.
What do you invest to?
I play with stocks and shares.
What's the big picture? I don't know, real estate, S&P 500, crypto?
A bit of all of that. I've got some money in crypto, some money in stock, not huge amounts of money. It's amazing that however much you earn, you manage to spend. So I've never been very good at putting money aside for a rainy day, unfortunately. The S&P, I kind of track some to that. At the moment, I guess Bitcoin and crypto is the hot topic. So I've been looking at that more recently.
Hey, wait. Do you invest? I do. I believe that to obtain the real freedom in life, you have to learn only two things. One is how to make money, another one is how to invest. And there is an app that can help you with that. It's called Moomoo, and it's all-in-one trading platform and your financial companion. So Moomoo offers commission-free trading and super user-friendly app, which is great, especially if you're a newbie in this world. But also, it has all the tools for seasoned traders. Opening an account is easy and no minimum deposit is required, which is awesome. Plus, what I personally like about Moomoo, they have a lot of educational materials, like webinars, tutorials, demo accounts that you can play with. And it's actually perfect if you are just starting your trading journey.
Moreover, I arranged with the Moomoo team that you will get a 20 Singapore dollar cash coupon if you deposit 100 SGD. So that's a 20% bonus right away. Not bad. To claim this offer, use the link in description. So if you aim to grow your wealth portfolio, join Mumu today and get access to professional tools for your trading journey. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. We chatted before the interview. You mentioned that you did a lot of things. Can you give me a short list, the things, the most I don't know, the exciting things, or just the list the things that you did?
To put it into context, I started my midlife crisis very young, deliberately, because I wasn't sure how long I'd be able to sustain my life for. So I started my midlife crisis around about 30 years of age.
Oh wow, that's early.
Well, I didn't know whether I'd make it past 60 with the way I was performing. So yeah, I mean, I signed up to the white collar boxing when I moved to Singapore in 2009.
Yeah.
I took part in that, and then after that I did a series of ultra marathons. Sahara, Patagonia, Iceland, Gobi Desert.
Nice.
I did one in Madagascar, which I pulled out of on day 2, but I did those.
Ultra ones is how long?
It's 250 kilometers, self-supported over 7 days.
Wow, man! I know, one of my friends did it. I think in Sahara. It's crazy. How you managed to do it?
It is. It's a long beach holiday. It's in the Sahara. Over 50 degrees temperatures, any exposed skin gets burned.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, I mean, I was very ill prepared for it. Sun cream was when I remembered it, and skin was covered when I remembered to cover it. Carrying my food. I didn't really take it very seriously. My objective was just to finish it.
Yeah.
So I just took the time between the checkpoints. It was a fascinating experience. It's a real test of character.
Yeah.
It built a lot of character. I felt like I brought back a lot of new learnings about myself and my resilience. I finished in by the pyramids and the Sphinx, so it's a great way to finish the race and do a bit of tourist stuff at the end.
Did you have a moment at some point of the race that you're like, oh, why I'm doing it? Or I want to give up, this kind of thing?
There are moments where you kind of have those moments of weakness. That's what happened to me in Madagascar.
Yeah.
I pulled out on day 2 because my mental strength it took a bit of a dip for some reason, and then in a moment of madness I pulled out. And I've regretted it to this day. But there's times when you're in the heat and you're hungry and you're tired and you don't sleep well. It's surprising. You think the sand, when you're sleeping on the sand, would be nice and forgiving, but it's like sleeping on a concrete floor.
Yeah.
So your sleep's rubbish. Your food is all freeze-dried and not the most healthy food in the world.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's a great experience. It's something which I'll never have any regrets doing it for.
So what was the biggest lesson that you learned from the races?
I think resilience for sure. I brought back a lot more mental resilience because this kind, when you kind of take a dip and you're like, I'm never going to get out of this, and then looking back on it 13 years later, you realise that you only remember the good stuff. You forget all of the painful experiences and all of the bad things that happened, and the things where you do want to quit and you want to pull out. But I think for me it's more about making sure that you stick with it, because eventually you're going to be left with some excellent memories, and all of the character building stuff will just be kind of forgotten about.
Yeah. So resilience.
Resilience for
level.
sure,
Yeah.
My mental strength, I think, and my physical pain barriers reached new heights with more of these as well.
But it's also it's dangerous if you're ill-prepared. You can die. Literally.
You can. I mean, you've got to be very careful. There was one guy that had to be helicopter evacuated because of he didn't manage his hydration very well.
Yeah.
So there's dangers to it. They only become real when you see them. Literally the night before we finished the race, this guy had to be airlifted away straight to hospital because he didn't get his hydration right.
Yeah.
So only then you realise, this is actually a bit dangerous. But if you manage your hydration and your everything well, then it's not so bad.
Cool. So midlife crisis, 30-year-old.
Full on.
Yeah, full on.
All in.
How long did it last?
No, it's still going.
Still
I mentioned to you I got my motorbike license the end of 2022. So that was, every midlife crisis has to involve a motorbike, right? So I got my motorbike license. I bought a motorbike. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm continuing with it. I'm seeing what else I can do. I'm currently doing my boating license.
Oh, that's my next step. It's in my to-do list. Yeah.
It's worth doing. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's only in Singapore. It's useful though.
You try to kind of understand for yourself why it's going on, what you're lacking something, or maybe you're not happy with your career, or something like that.
I think it's just I just have this I just want to learn new stuff all the time. I've got this addiction to trying new things. I think I've actually spent a lot of time introspecting why I have this need for change all the time.
Yeah.
And I've never come up with a conclusion. I think it's just pushing the envelope all the time, coming out of my comfort zone, doing different things.
Yeah.
Just, you only get one go at this life, lark. So I just want to give it my best shot and see what I can achieve and leave behind a legacy. I mean, the most important thing for me is that my kids have got stories to tell their kids, and I lived a life that was just not mediocre. Mediocrity's my greatest enemy.
Right. How was getting the 2B license in Singapore? How was this experience for you?
Do you know, it was largely frustrating because you spend so much time on the track in CDC. But then when you get your license and you're driving in Singapore, where it's like being in a video game all the time, you realize that all the extra lessons spent being cautious and being 100% sure of your surroundings all the time is worthwhile because it keeps you alive for longer.
Of course, it's not the proper national service in Singapore, but you get scolded by some of your instructors. They shout at you. They
drill sergeant
on a very, very thick Singlish. So you learn how to understand them quickly, and this a full immersion experience.
It is. Yeah, it is. But it's good. I mean, it's a good way to learn. They always think with your safety in mind. They only yell at you if you do stupid stuff, which will get you killed on the road. So they've always got the best intentions in mind. I don't know how they do it 12 hours a day in that heat.
Oh yeah. No man, it's a tough job for sure.
It is, and it's actually quite funny when you're there sometimes, and it's almost like, I remember the first few lessons I had, and just people falling off their bikes all around me. It's like being in a comedy scene. It's like someone else has come off and someone else is coming off over there.
Yeah.
It's funny. You actually feel a lot better about your own riding when you see people tumbling on that figure eight thing I was cursing about earlier.
How do you find riding a bike in Singapore?
I love it. I love the freedom of it. It's the weather that kind of hampers it a little bit, but it's funny. I've driven a car here for probably 12, 13 of my 16 years here, and it was always like being in a comedy video game because everyone's just doing whatever they want to do. But I think they have a healthy respect for motorbikes, and it actually feels bizarrely safer riding a motorbike than it does driving a car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never drove a car in Singapore, but bike I ride almost every day. But I feel pretty okay, pretty safe.
Yeah.
As long as you know how to accelerate out of the danger.
Yeah.
For you, maybe for the 2B bike. 2B bike doesn't really work for that.
You don't get to accelerate out, you get to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, driving a car here is like being in a really bad Formula 4 race. Everyone's racing each other to get to different destinations.
Yeah.
With bikes, at least they kind of acknowledge you there because they don't want you all over their windscreen.
So, okay, back to your middle-age crisis. Bike, it started with marathons, then bike, now the boat license. What else?
I've written a book, a novel. It's a fictional novel. I've published that. That was one of the things on my to-do list before I got too old. I'm writing a sitcom currently, which has been a work in progress for about 10 years. A lot of things just get stored on Dropbox and forgotten about. I love writing. I love the idea of being able to do something which involves a bit of creativity. I've done a nutrition qualification because nutrition fascinates me. I'm a qualified hypnotherapist, which again was something I did years ago out of intrigue rather than as a career opportunity. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on. There's been a lot of different things that I've tried to do over the years to keep my outside of normal life interesting.
You're from Britain, so you're supposed to have British sense of humor. And I see you kind of through jokes from time to time. How's I don't know, do you go to any comedy shows in Singapore? Have you ever been?
I did stand-up comedy as well. I forgot to mention that. I did.
Yes. Of course, yeah. I'm not surprised.
I actually did a course in the UK, and then when I moved to Hong Kong, I did a few stand-up shows at the open mic nights. I also did one show here in Singapore for charity, which was about 500 people in 2009 or 10, which was really good. That was a 20-minute set I did for a charity that a friend of mine who was hosting.
Yeah.
I love that.
What club?
It wasn't in a club. It was actually in his residence.
Okay.
He had a very big garden that he hosted the Wild West themed night in. That was good fun. That
How
was the
was
last time I did it. It was good. It went really well. There is a definite difference between Singaporeans and British humour.
Is it?
There's a lot of my humour is very sarcasm based or self-deprecating, and Singaporeans I don't think get me sometimes.
What's the Singaporean type of sense of humor?
I've never really tried to work it out. I just know that sarcasm doesn't work, and it's my second language is sarcasm, and it doesn't work here when I use it.
No?
That's why I've tried. No, not at all. Like situations where something will frustrate you, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go and jump out the window. Oh no, don't do that. No, I was joking. You kind of have to explain a lot of sarcasm sometimes. It doesn't translate so well. I think Singaporeans in general have got great senses of humour, but there's just certain elements of British humour that doesn't work so well.
I went from time to time I go to the comedy shows here, stand-up comedy. One of the super common topics is the relationships between the races in Singapore, between locals and Angmos, between Singaporeans and Malaysians.
Yeah.
So this kind of the controversial topics. That's what people laugh about.
Yeah, no, the culture is always going to be a good topic here because there's so many great cultures, and I think a lot of the cultures have similar sense of humour. They don't mind jokes about themselves or about each other as long as it's not too controversial.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. It's healthy to. One of the great things, which is why I got into comedy originally, was that you could just make jokes about everything, and people understood that it was humour rather than personal. I think nowadays I stopped it because. I kind of became quite senior in my previous role, and you've got to be very careful what you make jokes about or who you make jokes about because you'll always upset somebody. And comedy became a lot harder because you just get into trouble for things that are very innocent, but if one person dislikes it, then you end up putting your entire career in danger, and it's just not worth it, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's good to have enough friends that understand your humour, and you can have a great time and you can have great conversations and funny conversations with all different cultures, but get up on a stage with people that don't know you and you start having jokes, that may be borderline, then it's just a whole world of trouble you don't want to get into. And social media makes it infinitely more toxic with things being twisted out of turn.
Yeah, interesting. It's like the higher you get into your career, you kind of need to be more careful what you say, what you do, right?
Which is, I mean, this is fine because I've never would deliberately upset or say something about anybody that I thought would hurt them in any way. But certain jokes, even that's why self-deprecating humour is my favourite thing now, because if I make fun of myself, I can't upset anybody else. So I would never deliberately upset anybody. But you just have to be very careful nowadays with anything you say. It's hard to adjust, I guess, when you get to a certain age with the woke environments that have been built and the woke communities nowadays, because it's hard to navigate.
Yeah.
When things that were very innocent when I was growing up to what's not so innocent or not so well accepted nowadays.
In terms of jokes, in terms of complimenting the woman or something like that?
I got told off at work once for holding a door open for a lady. She told me I was sexist. I was like, that's
where? Here?
In my workplace, in Singapore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was told it was sexist to hold a door open. To me, it's more about the manners that my mother taught me, as opposed to any reflection on who I was opening the door for.
Yeah, because you hold the door for a man as well.
Anybody. I run to open doors for people that have got pushchairs or older people. There's nothing in it at all. But that was a very interesting moment for me, where someone actually was like, "Why are you holding the door open for me?" Well, I'm not going to slam it in your face, am I?
I feel like in Singapore it's not really the case. Maybe it's more rare. That
was a unique situation.
This kind of more unique. I don't know. I've not been to the US for 4 years. Some of the American friends told me that that's the case. That's more common, let's say, this kind of things like in the US. It feels like, I don't know, Singapore is kind of more balanced.
It is.
What's your career principles? What's important for you to progress in the career? What kind of skills?
I've got one line that my former boss used decades ago that I've always lived my career by, and that's never forget your roots or you'll never grow any new branches. So for me, it's all about remembering where you came from, remembering those that have helped you along the way. I still message my first boss from 1996 every time I get a promotion to thank him for the opportunity he gave me, because he put me on the path
That's cool.
that I'm currently on. And I could literally reel off names now of people that have been the stepping stones that have helped me in my career. So that, especially when you're dealing with new people coming into their career in their first year or their first months, remembering that was me once upon a time, walking around, getting lost on the way to the bathroom or the kitchen, not knowing anything about your surroundings or where you're working, and really helping people where I can to become the best versions of themselves. I'm very, very bought into all inclusion and diversity groups. I'm very bought into coaching and mentoring.
What's the meaning of life for you?
Before, I was young and I was selfish and stupid and ill-advised a lot of the time. When you're younger, you do really stupid stuff that you live to regret. And you get to an age where you go, oh, my legacy needs a bit of work. And you kind of, I guess it's the age of responsibility where your career starts doing well and you have children and your family and you start to think about people other than yourself. There you start to realize that you've really got to start to put something in to get something back out. What I call midlife crisis probably is just the age of wisdom, where you start to realize that the world is not about any one person, it's about everybody. Everyone needs to coexist, everyone needs to be nice to each other. Acts of kindness are what should get people through the day rather than what you get from the day getting you through the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely.
Just having this selfish, insular life where shiny things, the world's become obsessed with materials and shiny things as opposed to just putting smiles on people's faces and just doing nice stuff. Holding the door open for someone without it being misconstrued as sexist, or running to a door to open it for someone with a pushchair. Those things, I love seeing smiles on people's faces, and maybe that's kind of why I wrote the book and I got into stand-up comedy, or I do the things I do. But seeing other people being happy genuinely is the legacy I want to leave behind. If the only thing I leave behind is someone saying he was a fun guy, that would be good enough for me. I guess hopefully along the way you help people, you make people smile, you do good things for others, you give back what you get.